Hello, welcome to Adobe Live. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If we haven't met yet, I am Jordan Danae Ellis, Community Manager for Adobe Express, and I am back with my co-host, Andy Lambert. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Jordan. How are you?
Good. I'm excited. First of all, to everyone in the chat, hello. And we did plan in some Q&A time throughout the live today. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat and we'll answer as many as we can because I feel like there are going to be a lot of questions today as we talk about, basically like which social channels should you be on and why, and what are the pros and cons of all of them. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a good idea of like where you should be spending your time on the internet. And like I said, we're here to help. So please drop your questions. And I guess we should also fully introduce ourselves. Like I said, I'm a community manager for Adobe Express, and I've also been an entrepreneur for the past 12 years. So when I started, online marketing was literally just Facebook. Like that was the option, and it could do like 3 things, and that was it. So now we have way more options. There are so many more choices, which we'll go through today, but that's kind of what I'm bringing to the table. And then Andy, I'll let you give a little intro of your social media background.
Thanks, Jordan. I'll keep it short just in case people tune in every week and getting so bored of hearing me say the same thing. I'm Andy. I'm on the founding team of a company called Content Cal, which is a social media management product. We built that for 6 years using social media to grow it, funnily enough. Obviously using our own social media strategy to create a product that helped other people build their own social media strategies. And as a result, when you build a product like that, you have to spend a lot of time understanding what the social networks are up to, what channels are growing the quickest, where should people invest their time, etc. So, like you said, Jordan, there is so much choice right now, and we only get more choice. Like, I've annoyingly, I lost about an hour on Be Real today. So,
no.
I'm like, because I've been resisting downloading it, then I did, and then you just go into like a wormhole.
Yep.
You know how it is. You know how it is. So anyway, we're going to demystify some of this stuff. We've got a lot of data to show you, which is usually the bit that I love the most because I'm nice and nerdy in that way. But let's kick off with the agenda. And this is the next in the series of the kind of 6C content framework. You'll be able to catch all of the previous ones on a playlist. I think they're on our YouTube channel. You're better with this stuff, Jordan.
They're on the Adobe Express YouTube channel, and they're also on mine, like just all of our videos. If you only care about us for some reason, you can click through our YouTube. But yes, they're all on the Adobe Express YouTube channel. So you can watch them all there.
Awesome. And talking about finding us online, you'll find our handles in the bottom right here. So Jordan Danae Ellis and Andy R. Lambert everywhere on the internet. So go find us on whatever channel is most suitable for you. We're going to start with the 6C content strategy. We'll do a little bit of a recap around what it is, and we've gone through 4 steps of that so far. We're on the 5th. Obviously, we're going to do the 6th in a couple of weeks' time, and then by the end of the year, we'll do a big kind of roundup summary of them as well. Then we're going to go into social media platforms and go deep into those. So that's where I expect we'll probably get a lot of questions, and we would love to get your questions today as well. I like, what platform's right for me? Is Facebook good? Is Instagram good? What's growing? What's not? Yada, yada. There's lots of exciting stuff to talk about. And then should we get time, because this is going to be, I think a question-oriented session. We're going deep on the social media network. So if we've got time, then we'll show you how you can use Adobe Express. The royal we, Jordan, will show you the difficult bit in like bring it together on like Adobe Express and how we can create our content and resize that and make that really easy to get our content across multiple channels to maximize the reach of our content. Alrighty. Cool.
Just really quick, wanted to say hi to some folks in the chat. There's Lorianne, Stuart, Michelle, Oliver, Bruce, Maria, Juan. Thank you all for being here. And also, like we've been saying, please drop your questions. And Andy already flagged our socials. If you're not watching this live, you can DM us. We're very available. So if you're watching anytime afterwards and have questions as we're going through, feel free to slide into our DMs and we'll answer as many questions as we can.
Great point. Cool. Right. Let's start with goals, because before we go into kind of recapping the strategy framework and before we start talking about the social channels one by one and going deep into those, really everything starts with what we're trying to achieve here. Like, are we trying to introduce our product to a wider audience? Are we trying to open up social media as a new marketing channel for our product or services business? Are we trying to build our brand and grow awareness, so basically get more and more eyes on our content? Or is it about becoming a thought leader? Is there a certain category you operate in that you really want to be the go-to expert in that space? Might be a mix of a few of those, but or it might be none of those. But really getting clear on what you're trying to achieve with social is the best way to start thinking about what channels you're going to be on, because ultimately this guides everything. I mean, Jordan, calling on you actually for a second, like when you think about your social media goals, what would they be? Is it multiple?
So for
Is it one?
for me, it's a little bit of everything. We talked a couple weeks ago about building community. That's always the number one goal. It's just like finding the people that I want to interact with my brand. But it is a little bit, I think it would be, thought leader is a little bit too, like providing a resource. So not only just collecting a bunch of people that I think are cool, that are in my niche, that are like the community of my brand, I also want to give back something. So some sort of resource. So for example, the Jordan Danae Ellis brand, which is like the one I hang out on for Adobe Express on, it's templates, it's social tips from what we're talking about here. So like not only connecting with the folks I want to connect with, but also providing some reason to follow me outside of just being friends. So I think it's a little bit of both for me.
I'm with you. And I think, as he was just said in the chat, like I definitely want to build my brand and presence on social media. I think from doing like this for the last, building content over the last 6 or 7 years, I think from everyone that we've worked with, building the brand and basically getting more eyes on what we do and growing the awareness of who we are and what we do has typically been, I think it's most people's number one priority. And that's cool. Yeah. So if let's take actually that as an example. We'll keep that in our minds for when we go and look at the social media channels later. And we'll start to think about those differing goals and how each channel can be used to address one of those particular goals. So with the goals in mind and having had a chance to think about that a little bit, let's think about the 6C content framework. So starts, like everything should in the world of social, starts with our customer. I say this every single week pretty much, so I'll keep this fairly short. But ultimately, another thing that's essential is kind of really 2 essential components before we choose the channels we're going to focus on. Number 1 is our goals that we spoke about. And number 2 is what's our ideal customer profile? Like who really are we trying to target? What do they truly care about? What are their fears, goals, ambitions? Really thinking about the emotional drivers of our audience that we speak about all the time. But think about your audience and think about really, the tendency can sometimes be like, oh, I'm comfortable with, a certain platform. But if your audience are on another one, it really does pay to like be where your audience are, because, it's much easier to go to your audience rather than, create content and hope people will come to you. That would typically be my thoughts on that. Might be controversial, but I don't know if you have what you say to that, Jordan.
I think I have 2 things. 1, totally agree. Like it's definitely easier to go where folks are. And then I guess the little devil's advocate I would play, if you just aren't going to do that, then do whatever you're going to do. So like if your audience is on TikTok and you know that, which is kind of my situation, but at this point in life, you are just straight up not interacting on TikTok, then like do the thing you're doing. Yeah, do the thing you're doing. You can always switch later. Like my plan is to get there eventually. So I think Andy's suggestion is like number 1, but you can do the second option if that's just what your energy is, which is fine too.
I love that. And I think this is probably kind of an indictment of the kind of things that you and I talk about. There is no right or wrong here. Our typical mantra is done is better than perfect. Yep. So, just start is typically where we would typically orientate. And it's nice that you and I sometimes have different perspectives on this, Jordan, as well. So
yeah, like, I mean, if you watch our videos, like we're doing this together, and also we don't do it the same way, which I think is great. There's lots of choices.
There is lots of choices.
And then we have a question: would you separate customer profiles for different accounts like one Instagram account for graphic design and one account for drawing art. Do you have an answer right away? I kind of have one.
Yeah, it is a way of doing it. Like I said, no right or wrong. It is a way. My personal view would be, depending on where you are at within your business, I would typically focus on one of those audiences and double down and growing one profile, because you will see quicker growth if you focus on one thing targeting one audience persona, and you'll grow quicker. You can always, if let's say you focus on graphic design professionals initially because you think actually they're a higher value audience to me, potentially, and then you can always go after the art and design people afterwards, potentially. I just think, focus is typically the best thing you can apply to any form of strategy. I think that's typically where I orientate. But what about you, Jordan?
Yeah, same. I think it's always easier to split off if it feels too much, which is we talked about this in a recent video. I did that. Like, I had one brand that split off into a second one, but I had 5 years, I think, of building one audience first, so that I had the ability to split it off and still have folks there. So I think if they're related enough, like if you're running 2 totally separate businesses, maybe, or like sometimes I have a personal account that's just like me and my nieces and the things that are totally unrelated to business, but I don't care about growing that one. So I think it's kind of like you said about your goals. If you're trying to do a brand and build that audience, I think, Andy, I think you're right. It's always easier to build one than a lot of different ones at the same time.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, from working with some of the biggest brands in the world in helping them with their content strategies, so few of them have different channels for different audiences. And that probably tells you all you need to know about like how hard it is to build meaningful community when you're doing it in different areas at the same time. Super hard. Not saying it's beyond possibility, that's for sure. You just might actually be more skilled than I am, but I'm all about focus for me personally. Because once you know who you're trying to serve, then it becomes much easier then to serve them in the best way possible. We talk about this all the time, but honestly, we'll never stop talking about it because it's the number one thing that guides your content strategy. Create those content themes, find the things that really resonate with your audience. You'll see, the biggest and best accounts are thematic in their approach. They will always have some form of pattern. Humans respond very well to patterns, right? And expectations. So actually makes it tremendously easier on yourself. We talk about this all the time. So customer, we know who we're trying to serve. Context, we know the stories we're trying to tell. Creativity, we bring the stories to life through creative ways and finding ways to tell stories in different ways. We went through how we did that in Adobe Express a couple of weeks ago, which should be a worthwhile one to catch up again. Then we spoke about Jordan's favorite subject, collaboration and community. Do you want to give just a quick high level on that for anyone that missed that session last week?
Yeah, it's my favorite part. I feel like if you're gonna pick one thing, this is the one. But basically, just about interacting with your audience is a key part. Not just like speaking at people. So like actually following up with folks, actually listening, polling, asking questions, replying to your comments, like all of those things I think sometimes get forgotten in like the world of thinking about online marketing. But for me, at least, like the people on the other side of it are people, and they are a resource for you, and also like showing gratitude to them for being part of your community is all really important. This is a really weird description, but basically just don't forget that your audience is humans that you like should interact with and reply to and respond to. And if they're fans, they would love to let you know what they want from you too, which is like the best thing as a brand or business you could ever ask for. So just don't sleep on that part. And work with
100%.
Other people. That's the collaboration part. So if there's a way that you can work with like ambassadors or partners or peers, that is going to look different for different businesses. But if there is a way that you can do that with your brand, it is the reason that mine worked at all was being able to pull in partnerships and things. So favorite part.
Think beyond your accounts fundamentally. That's it. So if you want to reach people quicker, it's not about just trying to go viral with one trending sound on TikTok or whatever. It's about sustainable growth that you can achieve by working with the right people in the right space. And that goes back to the point about focus. It's much easier to connect with people when you have like shared ambitions. So going back to that kind of graphic design example, if your community is graphic designers, find others to collaborate with, maybe interview them how they got into graphic design, their careers, etc. That it just makes, when you've got a singular goal, a singular audience, just makes everything around it just start to fall into place a lot easier. And then talking about falling into place, it's about where we're going to put all of this stuff. We've got all of this, we've now known, we know exactly who we're targeting, the messages we're trying to share. We've started to come up with some great content through Adobe Express, found some others to work with. Where we're going to put it all. And that takes us into channels, the fifth of the 6 C's. Right, well, here is the number one slide here. It's also a bit of a cop-out slide at the same time because, where should I focus? Focus where your audience are. We're going to go deeper than that. So don't worry, we're not going to leave it at this. But there is a lot of truth in this, right? Because there is often a missing step. We try and overcomplicate this as a process when we're thinking, all right, what channel do we need to focus our attention on? Number one, ask your audience. Quite simply, figure out where they consume their news, where they're spending most of their time, whether that's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, wherever it might be. They will tell you. And I think that is the number one tip before we go into any of the real kind of specifics. But curious in your take on this, Jordan. I love the fact that Cody's just calling out Animal Crossing. You might want to talk about this as well.
We can talk about this. So one thing that I just thought of while you pulled this up is thinking about your audience. One of the things that I did for my business was like follow kind of the key players back. So for my fashion brand, there were some folks who shopped all the time and they would send in photos. So I knew their account on Instagram is where that happened. But then I would follow them on Twitter and follow them on, we became friends. I would follow them everywhere. But by doing that with a few folks, you can see their activity. So like I know how some of my target audience interacts on different platforms. So I can see like if they are actually most active on Instagram, some of them are kind of more active on Twitter because we're in a nerd space and that's where a lot of folks are. So that's just kind of an interesting thing that like I can see where some of my target audience is most active without even asking them. I'm just following them. So I see where they're doing the most things. But yeah, this shot was from during the pandemic when everyone, I think lots of people everywhere, but specifically in my niche, everyone was playing Animal Crossing. But we did a little twist on it where we did like a virtual fashion show and a virtual Comic-Con on our Animal Crossing islands. And we planned a little event and it was like the highlight of our April because no one could leave the house. But that was a fun way to like take a bunch of different things that maybe didn't necessarily make sense together, but it was like a perfect storm of what worked for our niche. So that was a really fun way to do something creative with platforms. And I don't do a lot of gaming, but this was a way we could do it all together, which was really cool.
For me, it seems like such a perfect example of like knowing your audience. You've looked at their behaviors, you've understood the kind of things, the situations that they're in. Obviously, no one can leave the house, but the fact they're all playing this, they're spending time on Instagram. You often underplay stuff. I've been working with you for a long time now, Jordan, but you're like, oh, and then we did this, but it's like, it's such a brilliant, it seems simple to you because you get it inherently, but like, it's such a smart way of doing things. And it's all, once again, come back to the fact of you know exactly who your ideal customers are because you are one of your ideal customers. So
yeah, that's a real perk of like being your customer a little bit too. So like the things you want tend to be the things your audience wants, which is like makes it so much easier for it to come naturally. Yeah,
exactly. And Mike's just said, stalk your audience. Whilst I possibly wouldn't use the word stalk, but I'd certainly get the sentiment.
yeah, that's really it. Yeah, in a completely pleasant way. But yeah, like follow them and see what they're doing, because I think this is something we've mentioned in previous videos, but when you really get to know your audience, like that's it. So some of them are legitimately my friends now, but even if they weren't, I get so much more information by watching what they do than I would by a poll, even though polls are great. And for folks who do things in person, like that's something I realized too. Most of my business is online, but when I get those moments where like, you know, we have Adobe Max coming up, or I do Comic Cons or craft fairs or whatever, sometimes just watching like people's reactions as they interact with your product or see your brand for the first time. This is a silly example, but the one of the first times I sold sweatshirts in person, everyone talked about how soft they were, and that was not part of my marketing before. And I was like, oh, because online I'm not hearing people touch something for the first time and hearing like what they pick out about it. So yeah, paying attention, like maybe not stalking, but paying attention to your audience is like, it's so valuable. And then they feel very heard, and
That's
then it's
exactly
win-win
it.
for everyone.
That's all anyone wants, is to feel
Mm-hmm.
seen and heard. So,
Mm-hmm.
and social gives us an opportunity to make people feel seen and heard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, once again, it's not rocket science at all. And there's a question in the chat from Stuart as well about how Web3 is going to impact social. That is a very interesting question, and I have some views on it, but it will take us down a massive tangent. So we're going to cover that when we get to the end of these slides in a second, but I really want to cover it.
Cool.
So the other thing I just wanted to say, I know we spent a load of time on this slide, but you gave it some brilliant context, Jordan. If you are a brand new business, you don't have any audience, there isn't anyone you can follow right now. One of the things that I would orientate you towards is whatever category you're in, whether you sell coffee or you sell sneakers or whatever it might be. Just search that, because all of the social platforms, search it on the social platform specifically, because increasingly all of the social platforms want to become search engines. So as a result, their search capability is getting so much better. So just go into Insta, into TikTok, into LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. All you'll need to do is spend half an hour searching whatever your category is. You'll see immediately, the type of content that's working well. Is there loads of content on there? If it's like, wow, it's a bit of a ghost town around this category, you've got your answer, right? You think, okay, there isn't a bit of latent demand for me to pick up on here. You might go on TikTok and think, wow, this topic is blowing up. For example, if you went onto LinkedIn, let's say you're a bookstore, you went onto LinkedIn and search for books, you get a couple of posts. You went onto TikTok, you would immediately have your feed full of stuff, and you'd be like, there is a latent demand on #BookTok that as a bookstore we need to be all over. So then you get your answer through that way. So partially from like making sure you're paying attention to your own audience that you have, but also partially just by spending half an hour just doing a little bit of high level research, that will give you so much clarity on what you want to do. And then what we can do, let's go into the kind of third dimension. So we're going to ask people, we're going to do some search, and then we're going to use data to make some decisions, which is the place where I feel most comfortable, because, I like looking at some numbers. So what I'm showing you here, I appreciate there's a load of numbers on this slide. So let's kind of go through these. These are the platforms that have the highest average engagement rate. And what I mean by that is the likelihood that someone that sees your content will interact with it in some way, like, share, comment, etc. So with the content or the platforms that have the highest average engagement rate, that means we're likely to get more comments on our content. That's important because the more comments we have on our content, the more it gets shown in other people's feeds. So comments drive reach. So as you can see, it's all interlinked. And sometimes there's lots of supposed gurus in the world of social, and you'll never catch Jordan and I or hear Jordan and I calling ourselves experts, because you're forever you're forever a student in the world of social. But people like to make it more complex than it is. It really isn't that complex. These platforms are the ones that get the most comments. The content that gets the most interactions is the content that goes the furthest. Simple as that. So with that, then that helps us think about our decisions. That's not to say because Twitter and Facebook are so low, that's not to say we shouldn't put them into strategy. Once again, to like Jordan's point, she had lots of our audience on Twitter, right? So it doesn't mean that we should ignore Twitter. But if we're thinking of how can we build some of our reach from scratch, where we're not paying for anything, we're a small brand and we've got no followers, what gives us the best chance of success? So TikTok leads it at the moment, followed by LinkedIn personal profiles. So I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around there, but that 2.3%, LinkedIn's got kind of two numbers. LinkedIn personal profiles are performing incredibly well at the moment. And increasingly, LinkedIn is becoming a platform, whether you're B2B or B2C as well. The personal profiles, just make sure you switch on creator mode, of which you can just do in your settings. That gives you much higher opportunity to drive more reach on your content, more comments, better average engagement rate. So LinkedIn is doing very well, as is Instagram. One thing that I should have added to this slide, because this is a kind of a bit of breaking news from this week, is that YouTube Shorts is just going off the charts at the moment. And I'm not usually one to respond to momentary kind of shifts and changes, because we like consistency over time. But YouTube Shorts is now at 1.5 billion monthly views. And the way that they're pushing content, they're promoting it very heavily. To give you an example, I spent no time creating it. I posted a YouTube short on Monday, I think, of this week to test it out. I reached 7,000% more people viewed it than I have followers. I have the grand total of 7 followers.
Oh, me too. I think I have like 9. So great.
But yeah, my view count was 700. It's not massive in the grand scheme, but when you think about it, you're like, that is substantial. So yeah, YouTube Shorts, incredible opportunity. Once again, short form content.
That's great, because Jason just asked, where does YouTube fit on this chart? So perfect.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad I can answer that.
And then just Stuart was saying, look how Facebook and Twitter have dropped off sign of the times. And I know you already mentioned this, but it's not 0. So like, it's still worth posting there if you have an audience there. But as you know, Andy and I are both on the our strategy is post everywhere that you want to post, like instead of being very specific per platform. So for me, at least, it's like I'll still post on Twitter and Facebook. I don't spend a lot of time customizing content for those platforms, because I agree, like I feel like I get the least engagement there. But you know, with things like Adobe Express and Scheduler, if you're scheduling to one platform, you might as well schedule to all of them. That's kind of where I personally land with that.
You and me both. Because there's just so much opportunity in some platforms right now, where increasingly social media, and this is great. So if you're a small business and you don't have massive followers and you're listening in, this is your time. Because increasingly all of the networks, I think most people know this, and I've said it before, but I'll reiterate it, is that everyone's following TikTok's lead. And the reason that TikTok has changed the dimensions of social media is that social media used to always be orientated around your social graph. Basically, whoever follows you is going to see your content. Increasingly, it became less of your followers would see it, because more of the feed was filled up with ads, right? But that's fine. It was just really your social graph was the thing that determined the content you would see. And of course, and if your friends don't post very good content, you'll spend less time engaging with the platform, you'll spend less time on Facebook, yada, yada. You can see the problem, right? So TikTok spotted that and went, well, we're TikTok, I'm saying it's TikTok here. TikTok thought, well, we're better curators of content. We're really like Netflix, but for social. That's it. We know what's going to get people watching. So we're going to serve people content that we're going to recommend. Yes, there's going to be an element of normal social dynamics at play, like liking content, commenting, watching to the end and all that stuff. That will definitely fuel the algorithm. But fundamentally, it's recommendation media, which then means that, you could start, I'm picking on TikTok here. TikTok is not the only platform for this, but you could start a TikTok account today and go viral tomorrow. That's not possible on any other platform. I'm not saying that should be a strategy either, but it just goes to show you it doesn't matter about the size of your following. And that is an important thing for small businesses, because you're like, it levels the playing field now. And it also, the other thing that makes life so much easier for small businesses is that there's never been a better time to repurpose content across different platforms. They are all moving to short form video. like it or not, we're going to have to orientate our content around short form video. We don't have to. I need to correct on that, because if you just want to do audio first, for example, you just want to kind of do the spoken word, then stick with podcasts, stick with Twitter, and LinkedIn's a good place for that now too. But really, if you're thinking about, I want to build a brand, I want to find the ways I can do that most effectively, then, looking at some of the data in this chart, then thinking about short form video, and the impact of like what recommended content actually means. And basically that means doing video that's under 60 seconds or less, that gets people watching to the end, is your kind of number one goal, I would say, to get your content to be seen. Right, well, that's a long bit of narrative from me. I get very excited about this as a topic. Jordan, is there anything you want to chime in on?
No, I think you covered all of it. This is great. This is great.
I like, Oliver, your comment, like, start TikTok account, go viral, got it.
Yeah, no big deal. Easy.
Yeah, there we go. Taken 30 minutes.
And yeah, Andy and I definitely have both gone viral all the time, so that's definitely what we're here to teach you.
Yes, this is not what we're talking about, but yeah, love the comment. Cool. All right, let's go network by network. And I'm conscious I've been speaking loads. So Jordan, do you want to chime in on tips for Facebook or Instagram, or do you just want to cover Instagram? Or
I'll do Instagram, but I will say Facebook, yeah, I have there's a special place in my heart for Facebook, because it really is, like I said, when I started my business, it kind of was the option. And I'm really impressed that it's still around and still growing and still doing things and still useful. Like, I grew, one of the, the largest following I had at a time was on Facebook, and they're still there. Like, Facebook still works for me. So I appreciate it a lot.
It's not going anywhere, put it that way. And so I'm laughing because I'm enjoying reading the chat at the same time as doing this. So,
well, I can talk about Facebook groups too, because I spend all day, every day in our Adobe Express Insiders Facebook group. So I do think, and I've had Facebook groups for my own brands too, I do think talking about community, Andy and I obviously feel very strongly about that being a huge part of your online marketing strategy. Groups are a great way to not be only speaking at people, which is what most other social platforms are. Like, you are presenting what you're presenting, people can comment, but groups, you really can, you can interact in a way that I haven't found on many other platforms, other than, places like Discord, which is not really a social network. So yeah, don't sleep on Facebook groups. And we also go live. I mean, this series started as a live series in our Facebook group. So yeah, going live is a great way to, similarly, like we're doing right now, get information in the chat, like automatic responses, actually talk to people. Like, you start recognizing the same names over and over, start building relationships. So yeah, thanks everyone in the chat. Like, it's nice to see folks who come back week over week, and that's an important part of actually building a brand and community. I haven't really messed with boosting posts that much. Like, I never really had a marketing budget, so I know it is a great place for that. I know lots of my friends have done it. I don't know if you've done a lot of advertising.
It's been reasonably good. I would say it's still one of the best platforms to advertise on. The costs tend to go up a little bit, so it's something to be mindful. The cost of cost per click has gone up. But to be honest, we'll steer clear of ads today, because that's a whole other
thing. Yeah.
Whole other thing. But yeah, groups super powerful. Live streaming works very well still on Facebook. Facebook pages. I mean, to be honest, if you hadn't created a Facebook page today, I probably wouldn't be spending time posting to your Facebook page right now. I think it's going to change. I think as Facebook really tries to fight off TikTok, they're going to move to a more kind of recommended media model, like we were just talking about, where it's less about your following. That's going to start they're changing this already. So that is actually going to start presenting more of an opportunity for small businesses on Facebook in the future. But right now, the immediate opportunity today is, live streaming and groups as well, as we know. Monthly active users, it's still the biggest social network. The age range is skewing slightly older, as we know, but still the biggest age range is there. So you can see the kind of by the numbers and the demographics in the bottom left. So yeah, think about that as you start to think about who your ideal customer is, because that also can give you some clues. That being those numbers in the bottom left of the screen can give you some clues as to what platform's going to be right for you. Insta, you want to take us through Insta?
Instagram is my favorite. I mean, this is my favorite platform to hang out on. This is the one that you talked about losing an hour to be real. This is the one I lose hours and hours to. And Instagram for me still, and I will say I have not played with TikTok very much, so this may be failing on my part, but Instagram for me is still the place where I make the most real connections. And I think it's a combination of how easy it is to like see people's profiles, follow people. So like if someone leaves a comment, I tend to check out their profile and see, you know, if there's someone I want to connect with, then I follow them back. So for me, like the relationship and community part of Instagram is unbeatable. It's so easy to follow hashtags or follow accounts or look at people's tagged photos and just see kind of the groups of people who are hanging out. I think it's great for making connections. I have played a little bit with Reels. They're not as scary as they sound. So if you're nervous about making short form video, I like that you can mix it in. So like to me, a platform that's just about video is a little overwhelming, but I can post some photos, try out a reel, try out a video, still go live. Yeah, those are the things I use it for the most. I see here we're talking about like following trends and memes. That's great. I do a lot of user generated content posts on mine. I think Instagram is great for like tagging partners. So that's a great way that, at least for me with my business, this is an example here, Emily is wearing one of my shirts. And so like being able to reshare that stuff really, really easily, I think is a great perk if you have an audience. What else am I missing? Oh, carousels. Carousels are great. Now with the multiple pages option on Adobe Express, they're even easier. That's one of my favorite new things that you can do. I actually started making carousels of like recaps of tips from our videos. So that's really nice. You can use carousels for all kinds of things, recaps of events, slideshows, all of that.
Agreed. I think a couple other things just to add into that as well. So like that example that's at the bottom of the screen from Phil Pallen, like that infographic stuff, like the carousels you just talked about, Jordan. This is a great example of like, you know, really good, we call it kind of micro blogging, but really useful insights, really valuable, easy to consume. I think that's super powerful, and that's working really well. Carousels drive better reach than single image posts. And even better than that, 20% increase in reach comes from Reels as well, which is no surprise. But something else that's actually will help your strategy here between Facebook and Insta. Facebook and Insta are making life a lot easier for creators, like cross-sharing of posts. So if you create a reel on Insta, you can share it as a reel on Facebook. You might as well. It's just easy. And similarly with Insta Stories has just changed. So any video up to 60 seconds can now be posted as a story without being cut into those segments. So that actually makes life easier from a content creation perspective. So you don't need to worry about all these different frames, but also means that we can test how something works in the story, then post it as a reel afterwards as well. So, we can start to reuse and repurpose our content. Basically, I'm always just trying to look for areas where we can be lazy. That's all.
Well, and one other area you can be lazy is is it called Collaborate on Instagram? So that's something, if you have partners, you can do. It's nice to talk about it in advance. But for example, like for my business, I'm very open about how folks who want to share, like, wearing an outfit with one of my shirts or doing, like, we do fashion challenges. I'm open to collaboration so that my community collaborates with me, and then you literally just hit accept and you have a post in your feed, and it's amazing. So you can pre-plan that with partners, like if you're sharing a booth with someone, if you have you're working with a photographer, or any number of ways where there's a post that you would like to be on both of your feeds, you just double the audience on that post. And that's easy. I love that.
Yeah, you do that so well. Anyone wants to see an example of what Jordan's talking about, yeah, go to, is it on more on your Sartorial Geek or Jordan?
Yeah, we're doing a fashion challenge right now. So that's a very fun way. Anyone who wants to submit a photo, if they collaborate with us, it just automatically is in our feed, which is great. So you can check out how we do it. The prompts are there, and then it's all not customer, but audience photos. It's really fun.
I think you present like a really good example for like how Instagram should be done as a small business. So yeah, definitely shout out to anyone who wants to get some inspiration. Have a look at Jordan's accounts. Twitter, cool. So Twitter, interesting one. Let's just kind of call this out and say, right now, I wouldn't be investing a lot of time in Twitter until they sort their all of their dirty laundry that's been aired in public, sort all of that out. And then they can focus back on building the product, building the community, etc. So the only things really to think about for those that actually spend any time on Twitter would be Twitter orienting more towards a audio first platform. So as you see, if you go to Twitter, the kind of main call to action right in the middle of the app is their Spaces product, which is basically like Clubhouse. If anyone still remembers Clubhouse, basically audio first social, so audio kind of hangout rooms which can be recorded, and also Twitter are moving more into podcasting as well. So if you're a podcaster, that's probably the place to hang out. Twitter threads are good, increasingly Twitter's being seen for kind of more longer form stuff, but to be honest, really, just to be quite clear about it, if you don't have an audience on Twitter already, it's super tough to build from scratch. So I would personally, if you're thinking of like things you should and shouldn't do, because focus is just as much saying yes to stuff as it is to saying no to stuff.
Absolutely.
Twitter is something that I would say no to if we're looking at everything, where we're going to try and start. But don't be discouraged if you have a Twitter following and you spend time and you've seen success on Twitter, because then, keep with it. Pinterest tips. So I am no Pinterest pro, actually. So this is one of the platforms I don't spend much time on. I don't think you do either.
So I have in the past, because Pinterest is great for e-commerce. And it's also genuinely great for I should not say things like this, but the reach lasts really long. So if you set something up and then forget about it, as I do relatively often, which is not what I'm advocating is a good strategy, but I still get clicks and hits from pins that I posted years ago. So one of the things I do know about Pinterest is that the life on a pin is, I think, the longest of any social platform. So I've used scheduling tools in the past. It's really easy. There are so many like pin buttons, especially if you have an e-commerce store. You can just like hit pin on all of your products, make boards, things like that. If you have a blog, especially, it's great. So Pinterest, I think, has been the most roller coaster of time I've spent on it, but I still get a ton of benefit from it, even though I haven't looked at it in a long time. So I think it's something that a lot of people, including me, sleep on. Like, I think I probably would get more actual clicks to my products from spending time on Pinterest versus any other social platform. I just genuinely forget about it sometimes, which is not great. So do as I say, not as I do. I think that especially if you have any type of resource, if you're selling products, if you have like resources, blogs, recipes, all of those things, I think are great to hang out on Pinterest.
Definitely. And Stuart made a really good point about bring a good Pinterest can bring a good stream of hits if you tag your boards well. So agreed with that. I think the key thing to know about Pinterest is that it's discoverable outside of the platform, as you were saying. So all of the other platforms are kind of walled gardens. So if you post something and you post something on Facebook, you Google it, you're not going to find it. Whereas on Pinterest, you know, if you do an image search, you'll see a load of stuff from Pinterest. So it's much more discoverable. So it's less about, you know, you don't need 50,000 followers on Pinterest. You know, it's about like providing valuable educational content, ideally that links to blogs and further articles as well. So, and Pinterest, if you call your attention to the bottom left, have a very different demographics that are part of that platform as well. And the key thing about Pinterest is that, you know, the 86% of users, I think it is, they'll go to search specific brand oriented stuff. So they'll look for, I don't know, tables, lampshades or whatever. So it's very intent driven search. So great if you're an e-commerce store. Right, TikTok, something that I am a big fan of now, as I'm sure you could probably tell. Yeah, cool. Don't hide that. So on TikTok, this is where I probably spend most of my time now, because this is the thing that's driving a huge amount of growth, not just for me, but for many others as well. Under 60 seconds performs the best. Video completions are key. So as with Reels, as soon as you can get people to finish the video, then that is a very clear signal to the algorithms that your content is good and it's going to be served to more and more people. As a result, kind of what you're saying in the first 5 seconds to hook people in is absolutely key. And thinking about this, thinking about like one key insight or takeaway per video. So what's the story you want to tell? And just think about that one key story. And just calling out a message in the chat earlier of like, oh, I'm not on TikTok because I can't dance. Like, you know, it's becoming that was TikTok before. And yes, it's still audio focused, but I never use any sounds next to my content because it doesn't fit. So if it doesn't fit, I'm not going to do it. So I treat it like I do Insta Reels, which is like just video content, right? Just record a video with the narrative and what I believe is going to be useful. And if you ever want any inspiration, like I said earlier, just go and search your niche on TikTok and you'll find a load of inspiration. And what I have found that's worked very well is that when you've created first for TikTok, then that content, I've reposted the same content on LinkedIn, on YouTube Shorts, on Reels. And whilst I don't spend all my time on all of these platforms, I've just seen my followers grow on all of the different platforms at the same time, because like I said, you're able to repurpose your content. So yeah, such a brilliant opportunity. And yes, you don't need to dance because sure as hell I cannot. Yeah, LinkedIn, super powerful. I'm a huge fan.
This is another platform I sleep on sometimes. So I know you don't. This is one of your like zones of genius, is hanging out on LinkedIn. So I'm glad we're covering this because I forget about it.
It's getting much better. It's less about you know, hey, look at what I've done with my career and CV and all that stuff. It's becoming increasingly more social, and that's what LinkedIn want it to be. So it's one of the few platforms where longer form content works well. So if you find that you express yourself better through the written word, this is the place to go. And you can tell it's becoming more community orientated, because I find I pick up more followers from commenting in other people's content than I do from posting content. So kind of think about that for a moment. So if the objective is to grow followers and be seen, commenting on other people's content gives you more chance of growing that versus you posting your own content. So sometimes we obsess around, oh, I've got to post once a day or whatever. I only post probably once or twice a week, maybe even if that, but I spend time speaking with people. I learn loads, get to connect with the audience, and then it also means that you pick up a whole bunch of followers as well, because you then get seen in other people's feeds. So LinkedIn, super powerful. Now, I'm conscious that we spoke for ages about this kind of stuff, and do we have time for this?
We do. This will be short. So also, I mean, yeah, demos can be really easy because Adobe Express is really easy. So what I'm going to show is how to make, I'm going to demo a product photo, like a new product photo, how to customize it for all these different platforms. But also, because this is like really straightforward, like, thank you Adobe Express for being really easy, we can keep answering questions while I'm doing this if you want, because this is not something that like I'm just going to show you my really, really easy workflow in 5 minutes. So yeah, there are some questions if you want to. Basically, I'm just going to make new product promos, show you how to schedule them on all 5 platforms, and we can keep looking at chat. So I'm just going to start from a photo. Go ahead.
You start. I'm going to answer Sarah's question. What circumstances benefit, or what circumstance equals benefit to drive audience from one platform to another platform or website, like Pinterest to blog posts, rather than just engaging on the platform where your audience is? Basically, how are we thinking about the customer journey and where we're directing people to? And I think typically for social, most of the time we should be thinking about adding value in the feed for our users, rather than thinking, oh, they need to click on something or they need to take a next action. Because quite frankly, the number one job is to really start to build trust and grow an audience. Ultimately, that's where, if you think about where social media fits best, it's always in like the top of the funnel, that awareness piece, the top of funnel brand building stuff. Because the way that people make purchasing decisions has changed dramatically. And sometimes we think, oh, right, someone's going to see a post and then make a purchase straight away. The reality is quite different. The reality is that it takes time for people to feel that requisite level of trust to make a purchasing decision. So I wouldn't sweat it too much that every single post needs to have some form of call to action. That being said, there are still opportunities, however, to drive relevant interactions and further next steps. So I'll give you an example on LinkedIn, for example. If you're posting either through LinkedIn personal profiles or company pages, you can now have link stickers in your content. So for example, I regularly talk about social media news and updates every week, and I have a little kind of link sticker there. And link stickers now work on Instagram as well. So that is such a powerful thing, because it means that links aren't hidden in the copy of the text. So where it's relevant, we can drive audience into their next step. But don't think every single post needs a call to action, because quite simply just adding value is enough. Because fundamentally that's really what we're here to do. We're here to kind of build trust and build our brand over the long term. So hopefully that makes a degree of sense. Jordan, over to you.
Yeah, so in the amount of time you answered one question, I have made 5 versions of this for I think every single platform. I was just going to, one of my favorite things to do with Instagram stories is to add these oops, I want to go back to basic shapes. Here we go. And I like adding these little like roundy rectangles for adding links, just so that they stand out. So I was gonna add just a little space for my Instagram story. But so here, if we zoom out, I don't know if anyone was watching, you can literally just duplicate and then resize to the platform that you need. So we have, I think it's Facebook, then Twitter, then Instagram post, then Pinterest, then Instagram story. And that was what, 2 minutes? I just added like a new banner to these. And so then if we go back in, easy peasy, we'll go back to page 1. And you can schedule these one at a time. So I'll just hit this handy dandy schedule button up here. And this is for Facebook. So while my media is loading, this is not the most exciting caption ever, but do something like that. I'll genuinely just copy paste it. I'm going to hit draft so I don't schedule this for real, since this is not a new product, and hit it. And then it can go out literally any day that we want. And then can just go to page 2, hit schedule again, go to Twitter. This is copy the same caption if you want. You can customize it. You can preview here to see what it'll look like. And we can do all of them in, what is this, 5 minutes? So if you think that this like cannot be done quickly and it's too overwhelming, this is my absolute favorite way. Add some hashtags for the first comments, And
really goes
that's
to show
literally it.
Well, considering I've given you the grand total of 4 minutes to do this demo,
that's all it takes, though. That's literally all it takes. We have Pinterest. Oh, I forgot LinkedIn. But actually, LinkedIn, I really like using links for that too. And then on Pinterest, you can choose like the boards that you want. Let's do this. Add titles to your pins, add the links, which I'm not going to do because I don't have that up. But yeah, literally, that is it. And you can see them all here. So for example, if you wanted to change things up, if you wanted to like get fancy and remove the background and make things, make things different colors. If it's not new and I want to swap out what the text says, like this is one of the easiest ways to do this ever. And then once you're in your scheduler, you can, let me refresh this so it's all here. If you don't want them all to go out at the same time, you can have things go out, a different day. You can move things around. You can decide you can plan out months and months in advance, which is one of my favorite things. So yeah, quickest demo ever, but literally that's all it takes. Like I just scheduled 5 posts in 5 minutes. So if that's not a testament to how easy this can be if you want it to be, that's so literally it. Yeah.
I love it. I promised Stuart I would give a perspective on Web3. Basically, I expect to see more platforms like Patreon and Substack emerging, because creators monetizing their content will become more the norm than these widespread open social networks, because monetizing content and creators actually getting paid for the content that they create will become the new normal in a few years. I think it's going to take a number of years for this to actually happen, but I could talk about Web3 for ages.
I was going to say, we literally have to go right now.
We got to go.
For more of that, you can follow Andy at Andy R. Lambert. You can ask questions to me at Jordan Danae Ellis. Stick around for more things, and we'll be back in a future video. Thanks so much for joining in with us today.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all the questions.
We'll see you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.